Coaches gone. GM's gone. What now? Where to from here? Who's hot and who's in hot water? Let's go around the coaching carousel. G'day Aussie Gridiron fans, welcome to the G'day Gridiron podcast brought to you by the Aussie Gridiron Network. It is indeed the coaching carousel for 2025-26. We are on the other side of the ominous Black Monday in the NFL. That is an inherently negative term, Brad. Do you think we should rebrand Black Monday at some point?
Yeah. I think we should. I get the sentiment behind it, but it's and I am definitely not a PC guy, but it is 2026, and I think that term has a lot of different connotations for a lot of different people. Some people think of it as a shopping holiday. So,
yes, it is that too. Yeah. In Australia, I think we've got a black every day of the week to commemorate some kind of massive bushfire tragedy that's happened over the years. Black Monday, though, is very negative. I bring this up a little bit because one of my favourite podcasts, NFL podcasts to listen to, rebranded this before because a few years ago they decided it's very negative. So they have, and this is Heed the Call podcast for anybody who doesn't listen, they've rebranded on themselves to New Horizons Monday. So it's because it's not about the negative of being fired. It's about the new horizon and what can come from that.
That sounds like a PC.
That's a very. I live in Byron Bay and smoke a lot of weed and just walk around with barefoot. I
wonder in Pete Carroll in his 70s what new horizons he'll be looking forward to.
He's got a coffin
Will
on
he
the other side
remain living in Vegas despite leaving the Raiders?
Yeah. So, yes, we're on the other side of Black Monday. So we're obviously all of the major firings happen immediately after Week 18. A lot happened. 5 happened on 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, 4 happened on almost immediately after games were finished. A couple earlier in the season. And then the big one, the big domino, fell on Wednesday morning, our time, Tuesday in the States. And that is, of course, John Harbaugh, who has officially been booted from the Baltimore Ravens after missing the playoffs. In 18 seasons on the job for John Harbaugh, some very, very big accolades. And obviously rebuilt that team from absolutely nothing. It was a complete basket case. Nobody wanted that job when he took it, and he built it into what it is today. But I've talked about it a little as we've gone on through the season, where I thought that the two just weren't working together anymore, and to get over a hump, Brad, they kind of needed to just have that separation and maybe just get some new thoughts and blood into the Ravens. And for John Harbaugh, who is an amazing coach, maybe he just needs a new situation, somewhere new, a new reclamation project, Brad.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's just the case. It's just because sometimes just relationships, as everybody knows, they grow apart. And I think there's just too much friction in this. And nobody will come out and say it, but you kind of got to wonder behind closed doors, was this a John Harbaugh or Lamar? You got to choose one or the other type situations. And because by all accounts, they weren't really getting along. They coexisted, but they weren't really getting along. And anybody that's been in a relationship where all you do is coexist, it doesn't really work. So, and obviously Harbaugh got the boot, but so good on Baltimore in the sense of they had to do something. They were at that stage where Nothing was different. This was the first season where you just felt like, no, they really regressed. Last year and previous years is just bad luck, and you always felt like they easily could have been a Super Bowl champion, but this year, no, you didn't have that sense at all. So, and if you've got an MVP quarterback, odds are, unless your last name is Shanahan or McVay, and you're the coach, you're going to get the short end of that straw.
There were some reports earlier in the season too that ownership wanted him to fire certain coaches on his staff, OC coaches, DC coaches, etc., coordinators, and get rid of those, and that Harbaugh basically said no to them. He just told them, no, I'm not doing that. I think we can get through. So there's obviously some friction with upstairs in the tower as well. So there's it seems like this is where it was going to culminate once they lost to the Steelers in that Week 18 game.
To your point, Brad, I do think it did have to come down to one or the other, and we'll talk about it probably a lot in the off season about his contract. But Lamar Jackson's contract is coming up soon, so I think if that was part of the decision, where he's like, if he had an opinion on it, I don't know if you guys had heard his sort of his press conference during the week, after the game against Pittsburgh, but he got asked about John Harbaugh and is he going to be the coach next year, and he just sort of brushed it and said, I'm not really focused. I get it. It's they've essentially lost a playoff game, but it wasn't very. It wasn't like that vote of confidence that you would think that if they were asking about is Derrick Henry going to come back next year, he'd be like, yeah, absolutely. He's one of the best running backs in the league. But on the flip side, though, with Harbaugh, just to play a bit of a game here. I don't know if you guys had read this during the week, but this is something that Schefter retweeted as well from Fox News. But 9 teams have contacted John Harbaugh, but only
in
7.
the 45 minutes after the firing was announced, 7 teams had already contacted his agent.
Seven contacted within 45, but now that
within
number's
45
gone
minutes
up to 9. But
Yeah.
there's only
And
7 available spots.
There's only 6. Yeah, that's right. There's only 6 other teams other than the Ravens, so you've got to assume the Ravens aren't one of those ringing his agent. So
who are the 3?
Well, who was? There's 3, but who was the one or more in all that space that would have immediately started inquiring? I guarantee you, the Dolphins, Miami, were one of those because Ross would just step over his grandmother to do anything for that team.
Yeah, he'd be frothing over that.
So 9. Now, we're up to 9 now franchises that have inquired about John Harbaugh in one way or another. I would assume it won't necessarily be for a head coaching role, but I assume there would be some out there who know that they're probably moving on from coordinators who might be looking for a very well tenured coordinator. The Ravens at the moment have interview requests in with Anthony Weaver, the Dolphins defensive coordinator, and Clint Kubiak, the Seahawks offensive coordinator. So they're the 2 that have been reported at the moment.
Kubiak with that rush offense is going to be really good if he gets that job.
Yeah,
I think that they need an offensive coordinator, to be honest. I think they need an offensive head coach. Sorry, is what I meant to say.
Yeah. No, I know what you meant. Yeah, I could see. And Kubiak's he's the hot hand right now. He's not exactly Ben Johnson, but what he's done there in Seattle has been impressive. So it would not surprise me at all if he gets a nod. If he gets multiple offers, really.
He has actually. He's in for nearly everything at the moment. But if you put a young offensive guy with Lamar Jackson and the Zay Flowers and the rest of that offense, even if you get Derrick Henry back on the ground as well, so it'd be sensational. And then you just need a hard-nosed defensive coordinator that comes along with him, I reckon, just to really figure out what's going on in that locker room and get some culture back and get the Ravens back to where they once were. Righto, moving on. Jonathan Gannon has been let go from the Arizona Cardinals after 3 seasons on the job. Cardinals decided to move on from Gannon. He went 15-36 as the organisation's head coach, which included a 3-14 season in 2025. Arizona ended the year on a 9-game losing streak, which would have put the final nails in Jonathan Gannon's coffin. Cardinals have made the playoff only once in the last 10 seasons. Not much. Jonathan Gannon was a massive name coming out of Philadelphia a few years ago after that first Super Bowl. It just didn't go right. I feel a little bit sorry for Jonathan Gannon as well, though, because it seems like his future has been decided on the failure of a QB that they upped and they thought was going to come back from injury and do well, and Kyler Murray has just not shown anything, and this is sort of where you've ended up, where you don't have your star quarterback and you've just been sort of floating through space for the last couple of years, and you end up with this 3-14 season because you couldn't get anything going anywhere. I feel a little bit sorry for him in that regard, but in another regard, he was supposed to be the defensive guy, and clearly they couldn't defend for shit.
Yeah. I was just about to say that was his side of the ball, and at least if you're not working on your side of the ball, at least getting better, then unfortunately you don't really have that case to hold.
Yeah, it makes me think that because he was a defensive guy and because of the uncertainties on offense, and they have invested a lot in the offense, they're going to go with more of an offensive guy. Again, I could see, Matt Nagy, Chiefs OC. I could see Kubiak being right there with it, because ultimately you got to make a decision on Murray. And I don't know if they've already made that decision and they want the coach to fall in line, or are they letting a coach kind of say no? Do they want to hear the coach's opinion and then make a decision on Murray? Personally, I think you should just cut bait and go forward.
Well, both of those guys are two of the three offensive guys that have interview requests at the moment from the Cardinals. The third one is Thomas Brown, the Patriots passing game coordinator. There are some defensive names on the list as well. They include Vance Joseph, the Broncos DC, Robert Saleh, the 49ers DC, Anthony Weaver, the Dolphins DC, and Raheem Morris, the former Falcons head coach, who we'll get to in a minute.
Wow, okay. No.
Interesting.
Now, not all of those, of course, all these interview requests aren't necessarily for head coaching positions, because a lot of teams will interview guys like former head coaches that are coming out the cycle now for coordinator roles at the same time, so they can flesh them out at the same time. So it could be that they really like Kubiak or Nagy, and they might want to try and grab hold of Raheem Morris, say, as a DC. So that could happen as well. So on the Falcons, yes, Raheem Morris was let go after 2 seasons on the job at Atlanta. The Falcons fired Morris after a very disappointing 2025 campaign. Atlanta finished 8-9 for the second season in a row and was third in the NFC South. They currently have interview requests with, and you're going to hear the same names again, Kubiak, Anthony Weaver, Vance Joseph, and another former head coach who was let go on this cycle, Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah. Personally, I would bring in Stefanski, probably. But you know what? One name doesn't, and I know people would hate it, but I think he would do great with this offense, is Mike McCarthy. I really do. I think his time in Dallas, say what you will, but his offenses were good, and they finished 12-4 3 years in a row. So they know he knows how to run it, and he's good at kind of turning around when they've got the meat already there. The quarterback situation is still a little bit in flux, obviously, because you don't know what you have with Penix. But still, that's a guy who I would think would get, because I feel like they're the type of team that they just need to get everything organized and get everybody in lockstep, and he would do that, McCarthy. But anyway, he wouldn't be a popular hire, so I doubt it. I doubt it would happen.
Well, yeah, who knows, Brad? The Falcons also cleaned house completely, getting rid of the GM, Terry Fontenot. Yeah. And in all that, they did some restructures and created a new position, the President of Football, which seems to be something that's going to be between the GM and the ownership. They have some names already up for interviews for the President of Football. Top of that list is none other than Matt Ryan, former Atlanta Falcons quarterback, and former MVP winner and 4-time Pro Bowl guy. Yep, so that seems to be going to be the first position that'll get filled for the Falcons, which sort of leads to the point where they'll probably be looking for that guy to hopefully help them find a new head coach and a GM at the same time and move forward into that realm. But yeah, sorry, Nick.
I was going to say McCarthy, to Brad's point, but I think McCarthy, if he's more so worried about, I mean, we'll talk about them in a sec, but the Giants, obviously looking at more so quarterback, unless you can give the Ravens job, of course. Probably want someone where you've got the quarterback sort of settled. I think probably if I'm the Falcons, I'm probably cheering a little bit more for Stefanski because you may not have 100% sorted out at quarterback, but Stefanski is a run guy. He's a run-first guy, his scheme. Yeah. Look what that guy did with Nick Chubb and imagine what he can do with Bijan Robinson. He could win MVP. He could win MVP. You could unlock Cole Pitts. Finally, it's scary what could happen. And in that division, they'll clean house. I mean, they would with Mike McCarthy too. But...
Yeah. I feel like Atlanta is a good coach away from winning that division.
Yeah.
For a couple of years. And I know you could say Carolina's on the upswing and all this and that, but I really, it's just, on paper, they've got all the pieces there on offense, and their defense is improved.
So let's talk Kevin Stefanski, who was removed from the head coach role at the Cleveland Browns, the biggest basket case in all of football. Stefanski was moved on after a 5-12 season in 2025, his 6th season in the NFL as a head coach of the Browns, where he won 2 Coach of the Year awards, but sadly he was 45-56 in his 101 regular season games. Kevin Stefanski, and I'll go on record saying Kevin Stefanski is a good coach.
Absolutely.
I hate the Browns, but Kevin Stefanski is a properly good coach, especially an offensive guy. And in a year where this coaching cycle seems to be dominated by defensive coordinators, he is one of those names that is going to stick out like with big lights around it, especially when you have, as Nick mentioned, such great job opportunities as the Giants and the Titans already sitting out there prior to this announcement getting done. So you've got, number 1 overall pick and then sensational talent at the Giants, rookie talent at the Giants, quarterback, running back, and a second-year wide receiver. This guy is going to stick out like crazy to everybody. And I'm surprised we haven't heard that in the first half an hour of him being punted that he didn't have way more interview requests. He does come up on this list quite a lot, but with the obvious names that we've already sort of mentioned.
This is one of those few cases where I feel like the Browns stink or stench or whatever kind of just follows him, and he's a little bit tainted by just the fact that he's a part of the Browns. It's unfortunate, but they do things
and
so
the decision
bad.
making that happened at the Browns too. He
absolutely
has that stink on him, but I think we all knew that it wasn't Stefanski making those decisions. He was getting lumped with those decisions. And I hate to say it, even the Shedeur Sanders one from last year, because that was quite clear at the start of the season. He didn't want that guy, so he didn't want to play him.
Yep.
Yeah, and it wasn't until he absolutely had to where he put him in. And yes, he succeeded, but that was, he didn't want it, so he didn't try and do that. So
yeah. The what I find interesting also about this is in the Browns list, if I'm correct here. So Todd Monken, I didn't hear his name on anybody else's list.
Not yet, no.
Yeah, which is strange.
Dan, Bengals OC Dan Pitcher. I didn't hear his name or see his name on anybody else's list. Browns offensive coordinator Tommy Rees, nobody else's list, and Browns defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz, nobody else's list. So what does that tell you about the Browns? They suck.
It's the worst job available.
It's well, and it's just they just kind of operate on their own wavelength, and I don't think it's smart. Why wouldn't you go after, at least interview Kubiak, at least interview these guys that are put the call in for Harbaugh, all these things, but that's not the Browns way. So you get what you deserve.
Well, there's a genuine. I think there's the problem. The biggest problem with the Browns is ownership interferes too much because they clearly don't trust who they've put in that position. But they need someone. I think they need someone a lot harder nosed, someone who is experienced to come in there and say, no, you just go and sit in your fancy bus and watch the TVs and booze it up, right? I'll take care of this, and they need to try to get some kind of culture back because that locker room doesn't want to play for anything. And on this list, and I'm really surprised, and I read it somewhere this week, there was a couple of names out there that people threw out who the Browns should 100% be trying to chase to change this. And it's Mike McCarthy was number one because, he would go in there and demand, no, I want control, and you just go away and let me have control, and we will do this. We will make it, and I think he would be great. The other one is actually John Gruden, who I think would be sensational because he's a hard-nosed guy. He knows it's all about culture with John Gruden. He's really good at developing rookie QBs and young QBs. And we've seen that from everything he's been doing with Barstool as well, where all the stuff that comes out there, where he's evaluating them and being able to sit down with them pre-draft and all that kind of stuff. He, again, would be another guy that would come in and say, you want me, we're going to do it my way, and you don't interfere. You interfere, and I'll walk away. Yeah.
You know what? The only thing worse than a meddling owner, and trust me, I should know this, is the only thing.
Your owner said some dumb stuff this week too.
But don't make me don't put me in a position where I got to defend Jerry Jones because I don't like that. But what you can say is at least Jerry's public about it.
He was public about it.
But
he makes sure he's public about
it. For sure. But he's a lightning rod. He knows it. He takes the heat. Whereas I feel like Jim Haslam, the owner of the Browns, he's in the back just trying to be the puppeteer, doing this stuff, and he's just messing it all up, and it's not working. And when you're quiet like that, I guess you can get away with it, but then the other guy's got to take the fall. At least Jerry fronts up to it and says, "Look,
at least Jerry puts up his hand and says, I did this. I made that decision." Yeah, you're right. Whereas Haslam at no point put up his hand and said, "I was the one that said I wanted to sign Deshaun Watson for that amount of money."
Exactly.
He never did it.
And it was him. It was him who said Shedeur Sanders as well. It's
100%. You know it is.
Yeah.
100%. I think is it more so that are you more surprised that obviously you have the interview requests and you ask people, but looking at it from the flip side, what is the actual sell from the Browns like with getting people to even look at that job? Because I get you probably put up with it for 1 year. You don't know what Deshaun's doing. Otherwise, you got Shedeur at QB. Defense is really good, but you look at the following season. The one thing that I would only be the only thing you can really sell is that the following season you go, hey, there's 6 or 7 guys coming through that draft where we can take a QB. You can select your guy if you don't like either of these two. That you probably get in the first few rounds. So you got Dante Moore. I don't know if he's staying another year at Oregon. Brad, you'd know more about that than me. Arch Manning. So there's a few guys that could be coming through. So it's
the dumb thing. They're talking about taking another QB. Nick.
They said no.
They had six. They had six of them at the start of the season.
unless you're planning on trading up to get Mendoza, the Raiders won't trade that away. Then don't do it unless you find unless you get someone in like the third round and it's more is in this draft. In third round, you'll be like, okay, whatever, cool.
But even then, you need your third and fourth rounders for depth. You need them to contribute, to be decent players. And it doesn't look like Dylan Gabriel is going to be a contributor. It doesn't look like Shador is going to be a legitimate long-term fix. At quarterback.
So yeah, unless you're at that point, you've got to get something back for those guys as well. So unless you're pre-draft moving the quarterbacks you have for some kind of picks, then there's no point in it. Or, as you say, Nick, unless there is somebody right at the back end of the draft that your coach has identified and said, I think that dude can be really good in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
It could be a Brock Purdy at Mr. Irrelevant again and just go and happen to just strike lightning, And that could be, unless you get to that point and you go, that dude, I reckon he's got talent, and we're going to take 3 years to unlock it. Let's go with him. Don't do it again. Just don't do it again. But that's where the Browns will, and they'll screw it up.
Yeah.
We all know the Browns had a quarterback. They had their franchise quarterback. He won them a playoff game.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And then Haslam got rid of him. So it's just anyway. Las Vegas Raiders. Pete Carroll is one and done in Las Vegas. Poor old Pete, 74-year-old, was unable to lift the organization to anything resembling respectability in 2025. The Raiders finished with the worst record in the NFL at 3-14 and now possess the number one overall pick at the 2026 draft. It's already been reported that General Manager John Spytek and Tom Brady are expected to spearhead the coaching search. I'd like to just remind everybody that Pete Carroll was chosen by Tom Brady. So only after he couldn't get his first two choices, of course, Ben Johnson being number one. So but he still chose him.
Who was the second one? Do we know? Besides Ben Johnson? Who did he want?
Aaron Glenn?
It was Ben Johnson, and it wasn't Aaron Glenn. It was another offense. Who was new this year? Liam Cohen.
Oh, okay.
Liam Cohen, sorry, not.
That's right.
Yep.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. I remember.
So he chose well the first two times, and I don't think he chose that badly in Pete Carroll. You probably just need to give Pete another year or two. You probably could have brought in one of these guys as an offensive coordinator with the view. I think that was supposed to be the idea, was bring in somebody that was supposed to Pete would train up in want of a better term. That would be that succession plan, and then they brought in Chip Kelly instead, which sounds like it was an ownership decision now, not a Pete Carroll decision.
I think that was a Brady thing. I don't think that was actually a Pete Carroll thing.
Yeah.
Brady was like, we should get Chip Kelly, and I don't think Pete Carroll actually wanted him. So that was
no. I think Pete Carroll wanted one of these guys that we're talking about now, who are in line for this Raiders job, which include Kubiak or Matt Nagy. They're also interviewing Broncos quarterbacks coach Davis Webb and Vance Joseph, the Broncos defensive coordinator. I think he wanted one of these other offensive guys to sort of train up and take the reins over in a year or two once they rebuilt the Raiders. And it just hasn't worked that way for poor old Pete.
No, it's. I feel like it's unfortunate, but I don't think it's necessarily Pete's fault. It's that offensive line was woeful. I mean, I expected them to be okay, but they were bad. And again, I feel like you wasted your first round draft pick. Genty, and he just couldn't get anything going on the ground. So you're gonna have to, and the coach ain't going out there and blocking. So I don't care what coach you have. You're going to have to invest more in that offensive line.
That's what Brad used to say to us.
Absolutely. Yeah. We need to pay you guys more. Because Gino just looked awful. Gino looked like Gino of old. So, and yet he was decent at Seattle. So you know that if you give him a decent line, he'll be all right. So I think, yeah, Pete got a little bit of the raw end of the deal on this one. Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too.
We'll see how they take it.
The Raiders are spending more than $50 million on ex-coaches next season.
Oh, my gosh. Well, yeah, okay, so case in point. How many 5 coaches in the last 6 years?
So Antonio Pierce, Josh McDaniels, John Gruden, Pete Carroll, and Chip Kelly. 5 coaches that they're going to owe up to $50 million on for next year.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, but when you've had 5 full-time coaches, head coaches in 6 years, that's an organizational issue.
Yep. I'm trying to get an in on the Raiders.
So you're hoping for an interview?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just a couple of million guaranteed. I'll take that.
Yeah.
You can pay me out after that.
You know, you got to turn in your
head coach. You can be coordinator
content
as well. OC is available too.
That's right. Yeah.
Let's see, who haven't we gone through? Let's go. The other 2 that we knew of earlier in the season. New York Giants, of course, fired Brian Daboll. They've got interview requests out there for. This is going to be obviously these last 2 are 2 of the hottest tickets I think in all this coaching cycle right now. The guys that are available or the jobs that are available right now. I think the Giants is probably number 1 of those because of who's on their roster. Interview requests with Mike Kafka, who is the Giants' interim head coach and offensive coordinator, who's been doing a pretty reasonable job towards the back end of the season. Vance Joseph, the Broncos DC, Kevin Stefanski, Clint Kubiak, Mike McCarthy, Lou Anarumo, the Colts DC, and Raheem Morris have all been requested for interviews for this job or various jobs within the organization.
I like I like McCarthy in this. I like Kubiak. Interestingly enough, I think Lou Anarumo would be a good choice just because what he did at that Indianapolis, especially the first half of the season, we all know he came from Cincinnati, and he was, he got him to the Super Bowl with duct tape and good vibes. So he knows what he's doing. He's very well regarded around the league. So I kind of see him as a little bit of a dark horse in this.
I think you bring in a Lou Anarumo, an older guy on defense as that head coach, and then give Mike Kafka another run as OC. Because he's been doing a pretty good job with the offense this back end of the season. So it could be, but other than that, man, Kevin Stefanski and Mike McCarthy have to have the form run at this job for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tennessee Titans, Brian Callahan was moved on as well earlier, and again, it's another great position. Good, reasonable defense. Unlike the Giants were a really good defense, and they have an offense that has a very high ceiling that just needs to be molded. The Titans built a really half decent defense with a few free agent signings earlier in the season, and then the offense, apart from a quarterback, Jesus Christ, who have you got? So it's going to be an interesting one. Matt Nagy, Vance Joseph, Steve Spagnuolo, the Chiefs to DC, Lou Anarumo, Raheem Morris, Kevin Stefanski, and Jason Garrett.
I'm sorry. I just saw that. I did not know that was coming. Oh my gosh. What are they thinking? The clapper. Come on, guys. Oh my gosh. Seriously. Oh no. I'd rather take Maria Thomas on Sunday Night Football than Jason. Come on, man. No.
Who do you reckon it'd be? I reckon Matt Nagy would be a really good fit with this Titans team.
Yeah.
But do you want to go from the heights of the Chiefs to
yeah, exactly. I'd love to see Spags, just because it's been so long since he's been a head coach. But yeah, it'd be really interesting to see him. I can't believe Jason Garrett.
I love that you didn't read any of this beforehand. It's good.
I'm stuck on Jason Garrett. Seriously, come on, man.
The other thing that I did read on this when we talk about sort of Matt Nagy interviewing for some of these positions, and this isn't a Titans thing, this is a Chiefs thing, is that it's been reported that the Big Red wants to start handing off the offensive play calling next year to somebody else. He wants to sort of give that to someone else. That sounds like he's trying to find a succession plan. He always said he wouldn't retire until Patrick Mahomes retires. So maybe this is a way for him to say, I'm just going to take a step back. And maybe that's where they work out a decent deal with Matt Nagy, because he gets to be a play caller for Patrick Mahomes in that Chiefs offense. And then at some point, he is the succession plan for the Kansas City Chiefs. And whenever Big Red wants to hang up the hamburgers.
Do you know who's favoured to take over if Matt Nagy leaves, though? Which is pretty scary, who it could be considering their history.
Who's
Cliff
that?
Kingsbury, who was the head coach at Texas Tech when Mahomes was playing. Pretty scary.
I bet you.
Actually, I did hear that on a podcast today. Actually,
I did not hear that, and that is scary. That today.
Yeah. So
that to me that was a little bit of a surprise fire. I don't know if that was a good fire or not.
From Arizona.
Wow. For his as Kingsbury, because he got fired from the OC didn't he, from
Washington?
At Washington. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that was his fault, that offense. They just got decimated by injuries and holdouts. But to pair him with Mahomes, oof. What do we see? Andy Reid 3.0, the next version of Andy Reid. Jeez, that'd be a fun relationship. Just when you think they're on the decline, they do that kind of thing. I'd watch. I definitely would watch.
Well, next year's going to be very interesting for him with Mahomes coming off such a big injury. So.
Well, yeah, and he's not going to. Will he be ready week 1? I mean,
no.
Yeah, so
not unless he's like gone Aaron Rodgers type sort of remedies. So maybe he's going to a darkness retreat.
Yeah.
And then coupling that with ayahuasca and everything else. So the only other thing we didn't mention here so far is the Miami Dolphins relieved Chris Gear of his GM position, but have so far kept Mike McDaniels, who apparently is going to be involved with some of the interviews for the new GM of the Dolphins. It's a very strange situation. I wonder just what's going on down there, considering how we saw how they played. And Mike McDaniels did not sound like a guy that was incredibly happy at any point this season in any of those interviews.
If you're Mike McDaniels, are you just collecting a paycheck? I can think of worse places to be than Miami in the middle of winter collecting a multi-million-dollar paycheck. But still, it's got to hurt a little bit knowing that you're not the number one choice, that your girlfriend's out there just looking for a better option and seeing what else there is, but she hasn't broken up with you just quite yet. It's we'll see. If the new sexy fit guy comes around, then you're yesterday's news, but otherwise you're just you'll do.
I'm not in love with you anymore, but I don't really want you to leave just yet.
Yeah, I need you to keep paying the rent, please.
Yeah.
Feeding the dogs.
And deal with this guy that keeps hitting his head as well intentionally.
So that's the coaching carousel so far for this week and post Black Monday. Of course, there will be plenty more to talk about in terms of coaches and where guys are going to go after the season is totally over. There are a lot of offensive and defensive coordinators out there who are free agents as of the end of the season. So there are going to be a lot of people to talk about as we go through and into the off-season. But that's just what's happened so far this week. We'd love to have your thoughts on it. Hit us up at G'day Gridiron on all of the socials. You'll find everything at linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network. Or you can comment on this video on YouTube if that's where you're watching it. Go to YouTube and search for G'day Gridiron or Aussie Gridiron Network. You will find us. Comment down below. And let us know your thoughts on some of these coaches and who you think might be a good fit for some of these franchises that are now looking for their next head coach. Righto, thanks for that. We will be back tomorrow with the wildcard preview for 2026. Yoo-hoo!
Go Ducks.